We left off talking about how many hours a night do you sleep. Isn't that where we left off? Okay. Yes or no? That's it. Thank you. Okay. Sleep deprived, we talked about. I went and read another article about that yesterday, and there's all kinds of correlations now with people who consistently don't get the necessary amount of hours of sleep. They were starting, as I said the other day, correlating depression and anxiety. But the other one was autoimmune disorders that were there. Now, that was kind of strange. The effect of how your body just needs to replenish itself when it sleeps. And if you have a genetic predisposition towards some type of illness, your body's just not getting replenished as it sleeps and keeps you under stress. And I don't mean psychological stress, but just the physiological stress of that motor always running and running and running in that way. So what we talked about the other day was sleep needs and sleep patterns, and we talked about people who get 10 to 12 hours and 3 and 4 hours. Well, some of you are short sleepers, those of you who need 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep, and those of you who are long sleepers, 10, 11, and 12. And the point I was making was that it seems to be what our bodies get used to. Later on in this semester, we're going to talk about circadian rhythms, but your body gets into a rhythm of doing things, all right? And that's what we all kind of look for in our lives, of getting into a flow or a rhythm of doing things, and it comes from your body. Your body likes to be in a rhythm, so if you alter that rhythm, then it puts stress on your body. So we get used to sleeping short or long term. By the way, if you're a long sleeper and you're saying, gosh, I sleep 10 hours a night, I wish I could change that, you can, okay? But like anything else, it takes some work. You don't want to go from 10 hours to 6 hours. Forget about it. You're going to be like a zombie most of the day. But if you can just go 10 to 9, and what you want to do is you want to get up an hour earlier than you usually do. You don't want to go to bed an hour later. That's too easy. Okay? You want to make it difficult for your body and get up an hour earlier. So if you're used to getting up at 8, get up at 7. You're going to be groggy. You may still be in a cycle of your sleep, or you'll be in a deeper level of sleep, but try to get yourself up. Within the first couple of weeks, you're going to be groggy around 1 to 3 o'clock. Okay, you're going to have a little lull that's there. But if you can fight through it and keep working through it, your body will re-regulate itself. Okay, and after about 30 days, you should feel better about 9 hours. And then I would get my body used to doing 9 hours for about 3 to 4 months. Then if you want to go to 8, do the same thing again. But just takes a while to develop what we call homeostasis, body balance in your body. But you could do that. One of the worst things you can do to your body is shift work. And some of you work shifts. Okay, you work 3 months day shift, 3 months evening shift, and then 3 months the graveyard shift. Okay, and your body never has really time to get used to that. The research on people who do shift work is that they do have higher rates of drug abuse, depression, anxiety. They have more accidents. They just don't think that clearly because their bodies just aren't in that natural rhythm that's there. Jet lag is the same thing. Okay? If your body is used to getting up at a certain time, you go fly to Europe or just go from the West Coast to the East Coast, what winds up happening, you throw that rhythm off. Those of you who've traveled, and some of you come from all over parts of the world, and you go across that international date line, or if you just go from here to London, which is about 6-hour difference that's there. I mean, everybody else is walking around at 7 o'clock in the morning and they're wide awake. Well, 7 o'clock in the morning for them is 1 o'clock in the morning for you, and your body's still sleeping. That's there. Sport teams that go from West Coast to East Coast, if they do that, they usually need to go, if they play on a Sunday, they probably need to go on a Friday to get used to it. Most of them don't because it costs too much money to stay in hotels and everything. And if they have an early afternoon game at 12 o'clock, let's say a football team, well, their body still thinks it's 9 o'clock in the morning. They're just waking up. And if you're a football player, I don't know what hours your body is on, but you're probably not used to getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning. You're probably sleeping to noon anyway. So they're way off. Therefore, the performance rates are a little off as well. All right? So that's just some added stuff. Stages of sleep. last night, if you went to sleep last night, you went through 4 distinctive stages of sleep. Okay, and we can measure those stages of sleep by something called an electroencephalograph. Okay, I'll just keep calling it an EEG. It's a lot easier to say, right? An electroencephalograph. It measures brainwave patterns that are there. So most of you right now, as I said the other day, we have beta waves. You're wide awake and alert. Beta waves that are going on. As you begin to relax, and you're going to do this in class, some of you, as you begin to relax, you start, that's not a suggestion, by the way, and you start yawning, and you start doing a little bit of this, okay? Then your brains are starting to slow down, and you may move into what's called an alpha wave set. And alpha waves are a very, very relaxed state. When you're in a state of hypnosis, meditation, you really get into your yoga, if you're in a zone in terms of sports and things like that. The other day I said an altered state of consciousness. That's what you're in. It's an alpha state. And what happens, we measure alpha waves in that state. All right, so let me talk with you about the 4 stages of sleep, 4 distinct stages, and let me show you a overhead about this. Am I ready to go? You got this? Yeah. All right, so 4 stages of sleep. What happens when you sleep at night, you start off obviously awake, you start drifting down to 1, 2, 3, 4, then you come back up again. When you come back up again, these are dream states here. Go back down again, back up, dream, down. So you spend various amount of time in these states, but it's the whole cycle that's there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, REM sleep, which is dreaming, down again, up again, and you go through those stages. Let me explain the stages to you. Stage 1 sleep is just when you're really, really relaxed. Let's say last night, okay, you put your head down on the old pillow and you went, oh, I love my pillow. Okay, and you cuddled it up, okay, and you lay there and you went, oh, boy, yeah. That's stage 1 sleep. And you closed your eyes, but you heard everything that's going on around you, okay? And let's make fun of your parents. Let's say your parents are those people that fall asleep in front of the television. Okay, so they're in front of the television, your dad's doing this. His head's snapping, he's doing this. Then finally he just does this. And then you say, Dad, he goes, what? And you say, Dad, you were sleeping. No, I wasn't. Okay, they always say no, they weren't, because it doesn't feel like you're sleeping. You closed your eyes and you hear everything. You hear the television. It's just you're starting to get an alpha state, and you can't figure out, are you sleeping? Is that the TV? What's going on? It's a very, very light stage. But boy, you can wake up just like that in this stage. And some of you who wake up before your alarm clocks go off, you're in stage 1 sleep when you wake up. You got your body very well patterned, because when you go to sleep at night, doing all this stuff, when you wake up, boy, you're right there. 7:30, that's what time you wake up. Your cycle is in stage 1 sleep. It's easy to wake up. Very easy to wake up. All right? Stage 1 sleep is just kind of dozing a little bit. Those of you who have trouble sleeping, when you start getting to stage 1 sleep, if you start thinking, I hate what happened today. Gosh, what happened today was so bad. Now tomorrow I better not be. Forget about it as well. You're not going to stage 2 sleep. What you just did is induce the sympathetic part of your nervous system, and boy, you're getting anxious now, and you're not going to sleep. You might as well get up and watch television or read a book or read your psych book. That'll put you to sleep. Okay? Or no, yes. Okay? But do something else, because your brain is just engaged. And it's hard to induce the parasympathetic, get back to stage 1 if all these thoughts are running through your head. Stage 1 sleep, and then you drift to stage 2 sleep. Stage 2 sleep has what's called sleep spindles. What happens there is you wind up, this is stages of sleep, but if you were on an EEG, what you would have in stage 1 sleep, the amplitudes are real high and the frequency is real close together. So you get a lot of this. But in stage 2 sleep, you start getting little longer ones that are there. Then every once in a while, you get this little bloop, this little bleep, and it comes down. This little bleep, and it comes down. And the bleep is you're beginning to drift. And you get that. Every once in a while, anybody ever have this happen? You're starting to drift off, then your leg just goes like that and just does that weird shake to it. Well, that's stage 2 sleep, and that's also an indication of that sleep spindles that are going on. And by the way, you can't control that. That just happens. And that's different than restless leg syndrome, because that means you have it a lot that's going on. But every once in a while, we just get a little firing in the neuromotor cortex, and it just brings your leg off. Your dad is drifting. Dad, Mom. Then he wakes up, and it's Dad, you were sleeping. And if he was honest, he'd say, yeah, it was. Boy, I drifted off there. But it's still easy to wake up from stage 2 sleep. If your alarm goes off in stage 2 sleep, it'll go off, and you'll start going, alarm. Am I dreaming? Is that real? I don't know. Oh, yeah, it's real. And as soon as you go real, then you came up to stage 1. But you hear everything in the background. Not as easy in stage 1 to wake up, but still it's pretty easy to wake someone up from stage 1. All right, so it's stage 1, 2, and then you go down to stage 3 sleep. Stage 3 sleep has what's called delta waves, right? So it's beta waves when you're wide awake, alpha waves as you begin to drift, and then delta waves when you're asleep. And these are real long, slow types of waves. Sound asleep. Can you wake up in this stage? Yes, you can, but it's not easy. This is Steve. Steve. Hey, Steve. And I'm finally starting to go to 2 and 1. It's difficult to wake up. This is also where if your alarm goes off and you're in stage 3 sleep, you may just sleep right through it. Or you might also reach out, hit the snooze, and not even remember you hit the snooze. Because in stage 3 sleep, you are out of it. Really out of it. Not that conscious whatsoever. When you are anxious, you spend more time in stage 1 and 2 sleep. This is a pretty normal level there. If you were anxious, you'd do this. Stage 1, down to 2, a little bit of 3, back up. A little bit of 3 and back up. You'd spend a lot of time in stage 1 and 2 sleep, which means what? You sleep, you wake up. You toss, you turn. You sleep, you wake up. You toss, you turn, because your brain is very active and you're not going down to those deeper levels. Stage 3 sleep is also a time when you might sleep talk. Okay? When people sleep talk, it's in stage 3 sleep. They're not aware they're doing it, and they'll just start, well, okay, but why should I do it? I don't care what you tell me. And by the way, you can ask these people questions, and they will answer. Well, what are you talking about? I'm talking about Mom keeps telling me what to do. Well, what is she telling you what to do? About everything. Well, what's everything? Well, the other night she... And what winds up happening is they're real clear and pretty lucid. They do answer your questions, and then they just start mumbling as they move out of stage 3 sleep. Okay? But you get some really good information out of them when they talk. Now, the other one that people do a lot of is sleepwalking during this stage. And this is interesting, because those people are out of it. They don't know they're walking. But what happens is their eyes open up, so their visual cortex is getting information in, it's directing the motor cortex, and you'll be watching television, right? And they'll come down and sit down next to you, and they have this, see if I can do this unfocused look. I'm trying not to look at anybody. They look like a zombie, right? It's just, and they got their mouth open, and you look at them and go, what are you doing up? And they'll, you go, hey, what's going on? Okay, there's a misnomer, and the misnomer is if you wake them up, they'll die. No, people are not going to die if you wake them up. But what you want to do is go, I think you're sleeping. Usually they don't answer you. If they sleep talk, they might answer you. Then you just kind of say, come on, let's go back to bed. And you go right back to bed. You put them down again, and they go to sleep. Some of these people, though, are so active that they'll get up, they'll go outside the house, they'll go for a walk, they'll eat, and never remember it. Never, ever remember it. Okay? It usually happens with children. Okay? I think it's a change in brain functions. It does occur in families. So if you did it, your child will probably do it. There seems to be a genetic predisposition to it. They usually grow out of it, but it could come back in adolescence or any time during their adult years when they're under stress. When they're under stress. So it can come back. All right? Sleepwalking. That goes on. It's very rare that people do this. Okay? And most children will grow out of it. All right, so now you're in, we go 1, 2, 3, and now you go down to stage 4 sleep. Fortunately, because this scares me, fortunately, you don't spend a lot of time there. This is the deepest levels of sleep. The other day I said unconscious would be in a coma or the deepest levels of sleep called stage 4 sleep. When you're in stage 4 sleep, you are totally out of it. Someone could come into your room, okay, and steal everything in your room, can even pick up the furniture and move out with it, and you wouldn't hear it. That's what's scary about me, that you're so out of it, you don't hear anything that goes on. You're that deep asleep. When you are physically exhausted, you will spend more time in 3 and 4 sleep. So someone physically exhausted will come down, go a little deeper, go back up. Instead of going this way, they'll come back down this way, spend more time coming back up. And then when you wake up the next morning, those are the types of sleeps where you go, wow, that was a good night's sleep. I really feel rested because you spent more time in 3, 4 sleep. All right? So the cycle is 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. Okay, so 4 stages, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you go back up, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we hit what's called Rem sleep, dream sleep. All right, now, think what I'm saying. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, Rem sleep. That's dreaming. So I remember your dreams. Do you remember your dreams? Whatever your answer is going to be. Several times a night, once a night, a few times a week, occasionally, never. All right, so we got 4 occasionally, a few times a week, some people never, several times a night. Everyone dreams every night. Did you hear what I said? Everyone dreams every night. Even the 3% of you, okay, who say you never dream. You just never remember your dreams, but you do dream. 1, 2, 3, 4 in your cycle. 4, 3, 2, Rem sleep. Now you're starting to dream. Could be mostly, like I said, in stage 1, stage 2 sleep. There's Rem sleep and non-Rem sleep. Rem sleep is when you're dreaming. Now, what then happens, though, you dream. And if you don't wake up from that dream, because you're in stage 1, stage 2 sleep, you can easily wake up. If you don't, then all of a sudden you go back to 3, and then, or back to 2, and then 3, those dreams are gone. And you'll never remember your dream. Some of you don't even realize that you wake up from a dream, and you go, stage 2 sleep, dreaming. Oh, wow, that was a weird dream. I need to remember. And then you go back to 3 and 4, and you have no recollection that you even had a hunch that you dreamed, because you went right back to 3 and 4 sleep. Okay, now, most of you don't dream until you get through one cycle, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, which is about, can be anywhere from 70 to 90 minutes. But some of you do lay your head down and you start dreaming right away. I mean, that does happen. Okay, some of you get into your dreams very, very, very quickly. But most of the time, it takes some time before you dream. Somebody had a question?
What causes a dream to become a nightmare?
What causes a dream to become a nightmare? You. okay? Because it's the way you're processing it and what's going on in your life, okay, that's very frightening to you. Most people say dreams are, and you can answer this one as I talk, most people say dreams are unresolved conflict, that there's stuff going on in your life. So if you have something that's frightening to you, that's what nightmares would be, then that's going to come up. The more frightening events you have going on in your life, the more nightmares you're going to have. Okay? What kind of nightmares do we have? It's also based on our cognitions. Remember we talked about children at pre-operational level have nightmares about magical things, monsters are going to eat them. Children at concrete levels, very realistic stuff. Mom and dad are going to get divorced, or somebody's going to abduct me. Adolescent years are usually about what's important in adolescence. Being embarrassed, failing, being rejected, okay? Whatever we worried about becomes a dream. As you get older, then, your nightmares are basically about whatever you're afraid of. When my children were young, I used to have nightmares about my children being stolen, abducted, okay? And I couldn't get them. Okay, I was just about ready and I tripped and I fell and I couldn't get to my children, okay? Then when they started to get to be adolescents and they started driving, my nightmares were about accidents and things like that and stuff. So your nightmares are based on what's going on in your life, okay? But sometimes they're not realistic, okay? Sometimes you have to look for the symbols that are in there, and I'll talk about that when we get to dreams. All right, so what do we have here? The most popular one is being chased or attacked. Isn't that fascinating? 48% of you. Do you know when I did this question about 15 years ago, I didn't get this answer? It's only been over the last 10 years that people are getting, I'm getting more and more of this answer. I think we're getting more anxiety in our lives, and we're afraid of more things. I correlate this with 9/11, and I think there's been research studies with this that our anxiety levels go up. Now, I don't sit around going, do you think there'll be an attack? I'm not sure what's going on. But if that happened to us, we keep reading about this stuff, and this stuff that was in Nigeria in the mall. Can you imagine the Galleria? Coming shooting that up and stuff. That may just weigh on us like in the background. It's back there. And if it's back there, where does it come out? In your dreams. It comes out in your dreams. Something happening to you. And it may not be that you're going to get a terrorist attack, okay, but it may be you being chased, attacked, okay, something's going on to you. I think it kind of weighs on us, and it's just floating around in the backs of our brains and comes out in our dreams. All right? And you have dreams about all of this stuff. These are, by the way, the 6 most popular dreams that people dream about.
I know this is kind of a little like a question, but what type of ways are there during stage 4 sleep?
Say that again.
So what type of ways are there during stage 4 sleep?
Stage 4 sleep, it's still delta waves. It's delta waves. That's a good question. Get me back to that. It's delta waves, and they're even slower at that time. All right, so let's talk about sleep, and now we want to talk about REM sleep. Rapid eye movement sleep. That's what that's called for. If I hook you up to an EEG, I can tell when you're dreaming, but I don't need that. All I have to do is just look at your eyes. Your eyes are closed, though. When you start dreaming, your eyes start moving around. It's called rapid eye movement sleep, also known as dream sleep. Because when you dream, your sensory parts of your brain are all activated. They're like if you're wide awake. They're so activated. So when you're dreaming, you're watching what you're dreaming. So if you're at a tennis match, if you're dreaming you're at a tennis match, your eyes are doing this. Back and really quickly, like watching a ball. If you're watching a rocket or an airplane go up, your eyes will go whoop, behind, right? They're closed, you can see them go up or down. And they're constantly moving around. Do you ever see your little doggies when they lay on their back and they're dreaming? If you look at their eyes are all over the place. You know, they're closed, but they're all over the place. When you dream, doesn't it feel real? I mean, you hear things. It's so clear what's going on. You're seeing things. Sometimes you can smell things in your dreams or taste things in your dreams. It's so real. Why? Because all of your senses are activated during that time.
How long do dreams last?
How long dreams last? They can last a matter of minutes, and some dreams can last up to 40, 50 minutes. Some people have reported hour dreams. But they don't seem that way, do they? Why? Because when you're dreaming, you're in an altered state of consciousness, and you have what's called time distortion. When you wake up somebody after they dream, you say, one of the first questions you ask is, how long were you dreaming? Oh, man, about 2 hours. No, it was 3 minutes you were dreaming. Okay? You get a lot of time distortion. And most of the time, you think you're dreaming longer than you actually were. They go by pretty quickly, most dreams. The dreams you have at night, the ones in the beginning of sleep, in that first cycle of REM sleep, are usually very practical dreams, stuff that happened during the day. The ones that as the night goes on, those are the real bizarro dreams that you have later on, where you wake up and go, what was that one about? That was weird. They get even weirder as you go along. Questions about dreams? Go ahead. When they twitch in their dreams. All right? Most people don't. They'll twitch. They'll do like that. Most people don't get a full movement that's there. And the reason why you don't get a full movement, okay, is that when you're dreaming, you're in what's called dream paralysis. Okay? There's no motor functioning. Okay? And whoever created us, that was a good idea. Okay? Because you don't want to be dreaming that you're fighting with somebody and start hitting your spouse or somebody that's there. But you're in dream paralysis. But your brain doesn't completely shut down, so you wind up with a couple of twitches here and there. And the more anxiety producing the dream, the more you're going to twitch. That's there. Okay? Second question. Yeah, now night terrors are different. If you hold that question, I have a slide on night terrors. I'll come back to it. Because night terrors are completely different than nightmares. Oh, I'll do it right now, but you asked it. Night terrors don't occur in REM sleep. They occur in stage 3-4 sleep. Okay, so when you're in stage 3-4 sleep, you're not in dream paralysis. Your muscles don't have a paralysis that's there. Night terrors happen mostly with children, okay? Their brains get activated, and it's very, very scary to see a child go through this because they are unconscious. You cannot get to them, okay? You can't talk to them. They're in stage 3-4 sleep. They're out of it completely. They'll thrash around, they'll punch, they'll kick, and they get this wheezing. It's kind of like, it's a weird, and that's not the complete sound, but they're gasping for breath, and they're kicking and punching. You don't usually wake up a child. It's almost impossible to do it. Eventually they come out of it, and a parent usually tries to grab the child. They get punched and kicked and everything else, but they usually have to come out of it on their own. That's there. Most children grow out of it. Their brain changes. We think it's a brain abnormality that seems to happen during stage 3-4 sleep. It does run in families that's there. They usually grow out of it. Okay, they can come back later on in life if they have too much stress. If they don't grow out of it, you can give them some medication. You know what they give them is a stimulant. Okay, you give a stimulant, and the stimulant actually calms their brain to help them with that. But it's a very frightening experience. Every once in a while, we get a child that remembers what was happening, and this is one of these do-do-do-do-do-do types of stories, but they usually say it's a cat-like being that's laying on top of their face and they can't breathe. And they're gasping for air that's there because they're dreaming that. Okay? It's more physiological than it is anything else that's there. By the way, let me say this dream paralysis, sometimes the dream was so intense, you're in dream paralysis, but your brain just goes, wow, that was intense. And you go, wow, that was an intense dream. That was a weird dream. A weird dream. I'm paralyzed. I can't move. I can't move my arms, my legs. I knew I should have done those drugs. Okay? I can't move. What's going on? Well, what's happened, one part of your brain, right, left part of your brain has woken up, but your other part of your brain is still in dream paralysis. And by the way, most dreams come out of your right brain. When we measure dreams, the right brain is very, very active. Okay? Also the temporal lobes, which are the seat of the limbic system, which is all the emotions that's there. Because you feel all the emotions in your dreams, right? Some people cry in their dreams. You get happy, they giggle, they laugh, they feel ashamed, pride, anger, all those different things. If you've lived through some trauma, though, and I'm also maybe talking to some of the men and women who've been in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and you're just coming back sometimes, okay? Sometimes you override dream paralysis, okay? And you're dreaming and this stuff is still going on with you, and sometimes you do kick out and lash out that's there. We find that also like police officers as well, who've kind of lived through some dangerous times. The events are so overwhelming, and your brain during sleep and dreams is trying to sort all this through. Sometimes you go beyond that and you do lash out. I mean, that's common sometimes with some people. Okay, what else I want to tell you? Get question? You have one question? Somebody else was over here. Let's do one and then two. Get.
Is it possible to continue the dream? Because I know I've had moments where I wake up and I remember it, but then I fall back asleep and it seems like it keeps going.
Yes, that can happen. And you get right back into the dream again. That brings me to another point. How many people here, during the dream, okay, you're in the middle of the dream, and somebody is chasing you with a machete, and they're just about ready to do this, and in the middle of the dream, it's as if one part of your brain wakes up and goes, I don't like what's going on, give me the machete, and the person gives you the machete in the dream, and then you chase them. Can anyone actively change their dreams in the middle of a dream?
Yeah.
All right. That is called lucid dreaming. Okay? There's a term for it. That really can. You're having a slight form of it. Okay? By dreaming, waking up, go right back into it again. By the way, when you wake up, you're probably still in stage 2 sleep, kind of dreaming, and you go right back into it, right back in the dream again. Now, some people who lucid dream can dream last night, and then tonight they go, I like that dream. Let's go right back there again. And they go right back there again. Lucid dreaming. Most of you learn this by accident. Some of you can learn to do this. On my list of recommended books, there's a couple of books about dreams and one or two books about how to lucid dream, because you can learn to do this. That would be fun to do in the middle of a dream. By the way, this part of the brain does become active in the middle of the dream. You can see it if you measure somebody, that part of the brain actually wakes up. You start getting beta waves in that part of the brain, because I guess that part of the brain is going, no, I don't like this. What should we do? Once it changes the dream, it becomes deactivated again. Just fascinating to be able to do that. Sigmund Freud once said that when he has people in therapy, as people change who they are and their functioning and what they're doing, their emotions and behaviors, their dreams will change. Because he did a lot of therapy with dreams. And you may find if you can change your dreams, that you might also, that might help you change some of your behaviors as well. Okay, it's kind of reverse with that. It's called lucid dreaming. All right, next question was right there.
Could someone die through night terrors?
Someone dying night terrors? I've never heard anybody dying of night terrors. Now, I would think if they had some type of heart deficiency or heart ailment, that could do, because it is very intense, because they're not breathing properly, the whole pulmonary aspect, and they could have pressure on their heart. But I've never had anybody dreaming. Usually kids just go through it and they go out of it. They cycle out of it. Okay? I've never heard that. One and then two.
Yes, like when you dream, and like you dream with different language, like you never really speak.
Oh, that's interesting. Some people dream in a different language that they've never even spoken. Yeah, that does happen. That's more usual with people who are living in a culture where their primary language is not being spoken. Okay, because what's happening, your brain's going, I'm not used to this, I'm not used to this, I'm not used to this. Or it happens with people who do a lot of traveling. If you're going to go spend 2 weeks in another culture where the language is different that's there, sometimes you'll dream in that language and you really don't understand that language. So when you dream about it, it sounds like it's a made-up language that's there. And sometimes you do make it up. Here's something interesting. Do you ever dream that you're reading a book or you're looking at a very detailed picture? What's that about? Well, maybe what that's about is that you're writing that book. You're creating that picture. Dreams can be very, very creative. Okay? People who are creative, pay attention to their dreams. That's there. Okay? That might say if you dream that way, you have a real maybe ear for languages and stuff. That's there. People who dream about painting, oh, you need to pay attention to that. You want a good technique? You can't solve a problem? Put yourself in stage 1 sleep. Stage 1 sleep. As I sleep, I want to think about this. Let me see if I can think about this. I want to think about this, go to sleep. Sometimes the answer pops up in the middle of the night. You better keep a pencil and paper by your bed to write it down. I did this the other night, and I still can't remember what the answer was. And the answer came up, and I went, damn, that's it. I went right back to sleep. So you have to write it down, and it was a good answer. It was something I've been dealing with, and I just can't come up with the answer again. But it'll come to me, but you might want to do that. A lot of artists talked a lot about doing that, about setting that up. Now what they do is that once they dream it, then they jump out of bed and start painting. Because they're already in an altered state to begin with from the sleep, and they start painting. What else you got? There's the next question.
Is sleepwalking going off on a tangent?
Is sleepwalking?
Going off on a tangent is not on the same topic.
Oh, you can ask a question about sleep talk. Walking, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, is that got to do with dreaming or being in an altered state?
No, sleepwalking is not dreaming. It's completely, I see what you're saying. It's completely different, so a different tangent. Because you're in stage 3 sleep that's delta waves. You're unconscious during that state. Okay? You're absolutely unconscious, but you're still walking around.
Then you know you're walking around?
No, you don't know you're walking around. If you tell the person the next morning, you realize you went up, you ate the whole apple pie last night. No, I didn't. Look at the crumbs on you. People who take Ambien, you know what Ambien is? A sleep aid that's there. There's a weird side effect of Ambien. One of the weird side effects is you sleepwalk. Not only do you sleepwalk, you go up and you eat. You get up, you eat. You go right in the refrigerator and you start eating. Okay? And then you stop eating, you put the food back. Okay? And you go back to bed. And you never remember that you ate that night. You wake up the next morning with crumbs and stains all over you. But and what that is Ambien pushes you down into stage 3 and 4 sleep. Okay, and keeps you there for longer levels. That's why if you ever take that, sometimes you have an Ambien hangover the next morning. Okay, because you spend too much time in those stages, 1 and then 2. Way back there.
Actually,
You're 3.
more of a story than a question. There was actually a guy at my sister's high school whose father took Lunesta, and after
Which is a sleep aid.
he took Lunesta one night, and actually in his sleep he tried to commit suicide. He actually his wife tried to stop him, and he accidentally ended up murdering his wife in his sleep.
Wow. Yeah. Was he the person who got off on that, or did he get
He got off.
found guilty? He got off
No,
on
he
it.
got off.
Okay.
I mean, it was purely accidental. Both kids saw it.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. Go ahead.
All right, so you have stepbrothers.
Oh, those stepbrothers.
Well, anyway,
Say it again. What?
they put, like, they sleepwalk. Both of them sleepwalk. They put, one of them puts couch cushions in the oven, and the other one, what was it? Yeah, person in the freezer. Do sleepwalkers,
Yeah, they'll do that. They'll do all kinds of odd stuff.
like, they'll, like, do the same thing all the time. That's how they know.
Well, what happens is that they get into a pattern of doing things. It becomes comfortable doing it. And remember the chapter on the brain and perception, we get into things that are routine and comfortable, and they do that. They can get into routines and do that over and over and over again. Here's a real gross one. Some of you have done this when you drank too much, too. But sometimes as people sleepwalk, they get up and they have to go to the bathroom, and they don't make it to the bathroom, but they think the dresser is the toilet. And they do it over and over and over again. That's not a good one. Don't tell me you did this, but some of you drank too much. Sometimes that happens to you. You're still out of it. Who was next? Said next. You were third, right? Okay. And then I'll get some other ones.
Sleepy. Do you, like, okay, so I woke up and my boyfriend was sleepy.
you were sleeping and you woke up and you're...
Well, yeah, I got up in the middle of the night, told me to drink. He was in the kitchen, like, full asleep, just eating cereal.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what we're saying. It's sleepwalking, and people do things when they sleepwalk. And they usually don't remember it.
Should you keep an eye on them?
Yeah, I'd keep an eye on him. Yeah. Especially if he has any violent tendencies. Yeah, yeah. Because remember, people are not conscious when they're doing this. And they do very mundane things. Very much. Let me see the hands again, and let me give you numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Go ahead.
Okay, so if you go in for surgery, what sleep do they put you in?
You're down in stage 4 sleep. Yeah. And it's not really sleep.
Well, yeah.
Okay? You're out of it. So they're inducing a temporary coma, if you want to put it that way. Okay? You're not even in stage 4 sleep. You're beyond that.
Okay.
You're beyond that. That's an interesting question, though. Who was next? Yeah.
I don't remember where I heard this, but is it true that you can only see faces in your dreams if you've actually seen that person in life before?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've read that too before. Her statement was, or question was, you can only see faces in your dreams if you've seen that face before. Okay? I've read that's true, but there's a but to this. Sometimes people create faces based on eyes, nose, mouth from other people, and they put it together. Okay? But you don't usually see somebody in a dream that you've never seen before, because your dreaming is based on your memories and comes out of your memories that are there. Yeah, you may look like someone you've never seen before, but it may be a combination of different things. Okay? And sometimes it's hard to see real clearly someone's face. A lot of time in dreams, there's these kind of images that you get. Who's next? Yes, if you keep a dream journal, it will help you, okay, to remember your dreams and then to interpret your dreams. What you might want to do if you want to remember your dreams is keep a piece of paper or a tape recorder by your bed, okay? Because you're going to wake up. Like I said, you wake up and you go, wow, weird dream. And if you don't write it down right away, you're back to sleeping again and you won't even remember you dreamt it all. And then if you can keep that and chart that, you're training your brain to wake up, write it down, go back to sleep. And then you can interpret those dreams another time. That dream journals are great. Who was next? We had 4 and 5, right?
How come when you're dreaming, you can't throw a punch?
Okay, how come when you're dreaming? Now, we're getting into meaning of dreams a little bit now, too. Obviously, you can't throw a punch literally, right? Realistically, because you have dream paralysis. But it depends upon what's going on in your life and what the meaning is that you can't throw a punch. Okay? Because somebody may be whacking you one and you're frozen. Well, to me, I would ask you, what's going on in your life that you feel you can't throw a punch? And you don't have to answer that, okay? You need to think, well, am I struggling right now? Not with hitting somebody, because sometimes you don't want to take your dreams literally, okay? I want to punch that person. No, maybe you don't want to punch that person. Maybe you want to have a confrontation with that person. And you're not assertive enough to do it, and your brain is telling you, you see, you're just not assertive enough to punch the person out. It's not punch them out, it's tell them off, maybe. So maybe there's something going on in your life that you feel maybe uncomfortable telling somebody what's wrong. Maybe, and I'm not saying you, okay? Maybe you're going out with somebody, but you're afraid to tell them what's really going on in your life, that you really don't like them anymore. Or they're doing some things you really don't like, but you're afraid to tell them. So in the dream, you're not trying to punch him or her, but it's somebody that's there. So you need to interpret that. Sometimes, I've thrown a lot of punches. And they feel good too. Sometimes when you throw them, that's there. Oh, by the way, when you're falling out of falling, do you ever see yourself hit the ground and feel it? No. Most people do not, because that's a fear response. Most of the time you go, oh, I'm afraid. It's so emotional it wakes you up. For the fun of it, you've done it. It's fun of it sometimes. Hit the ground. See what happens. Okay? Some people have said if you see yourself die in your dreams, you'll die. that night. I don't think so. I mean, I've seen myself shot, stabbed, fallen, and everything else. But I don't know. Maybe people who do dream they die in their dreams die that same night. I can't tell you that, right? Nor can I do research on that. Why? Because those people are dead. I can't do that. So, most of us are too afraid of letting that continue, so we wake up. So you might want to think about that. Think about your own life and what's happening that you can't throw that punch. Most of us have been socially trained that we're not going to harm or hurt anybody else. So when we dream, some of our social training comes out.
Well, I was going to ask, why is it that sometimes we wake up to the feeling of falling, but I think you pretty much answered.
Yeah, you answered. It's a startle response, and by the way, when you wake up from a dream, emotionally you're still in the dream, right? I mean, you still feel like they still have those same feelings that are there, the fear that's there. Sometimes things that go on in your environment, you put it in your dream, like the phone is ringing. Okay, and the phone's right by your bed, okay, and it's ringing, and then you dream that it's ringing. Some of you even answer the phone and talk to somebody while you're dreaming, and then they say to you the next day, God, you were really weird yesterday. And you go, what are you talking about? I called you around 2 a.m. and you were really weird. You didn't call me. They don't even remember it, but they talked with you during their dream. Last question. Do animals dream? Yes, they do. Your little doggy, if you have a dog, they get on their backs. They usually dream on their backs, and they move around, and they make all these little noises, and their eyes go all over the place. Babies dream. 60 or 70% of infants, not babies, infants, of their sleep time is spent in dreaming. There's something there that dreams seem to help in learning and connections and making connections and stuff. Dreams seem to be very important to us. If I wanted to make you irritable and cranky and angry, okay, come to my sleep lab. I don't have a sleep lab, but if I did, and every time you started the dream, I'd wake you up. And if you didn't get the dream, you'd be one cranky person the next day. Really, really upset. Because dreams seem to help us work out issues and conflicts that are there. That's what we're talking about here, is the meaning of dreams. When you have a dream and you remember it, if you're chronicling them, anything else, what you want to do is ask yourself first, what's going on in my life that could be depicted in this dream? What's going on in my life that could be depicted in this dream? And it may not be, you may be yelling at your mother in the dream. It may not mean you're angry with your mother, but your mother was the last person you saw that night, so she's in your dream, but you're angry at someone who's close to you. Okay? You also want to pay attention to what emotions you have while you're dreaming. Are you frightened, upset, happy, sad? So when you wake up, it's, what was the dream? What's going on in my life that could be related to this dream? And what were my feelings going along with it? And then maybe you can figure out what the dream meant. I think dreams mean a lot to us. I think dreams are kind of the gate. Freud said the dreams are our gateway to our unconsciousness. I think it tells you a lot about what you're afraid of, upset about, scared about, that you're not dealing with on a conscious level. Okay? If you figure them out. Now, by the way, I do need to tell you, right, that there are some people that say that dreams have absolutely no meaning. All it is your brain needs to stay alert, and what it's doing, it's randomly flashing and hitting different memories, and then your brain is trying to sort things out, what your brain tries to give incoming information meaning, right, a discussion on perception, and it's pulling things together and trying to make a story out of it. That's all it really is. It has no meaning whatsoever. I don't like that. It's much more interesting to think that dreams have meaning to it. But you might want to analyze your dreams and look at that. All right, I had a dream once that I was on a motorcycle in downtown Dallas on Main Street, zipping along on this motorcycle, absolutely naked. zipping along on there, and all the cars stopped, the people stopped. People threw open the windows to look at me and laugh at me and point at me and stop me completely. Okay? What did I feel? Felt embarrassed, upset. I started getting angry. Okay? I took the motorcycle, I turned it like this, revved it up, popped the wheelie, went over the curb, zipping in and out of people until this huge police officer stood in front of me, grabbed the handlebars and said, "What are you doing? You can't drive this way." And I said, "Yes, I can." Boom! Kicked him in the stomach. Okay, knocked him over, swerved around him, and took off. Boom! I wake up. Like, what was that about? That was a weird dream. So I'm laying there going, come on, make sense of this dream. What's going on? What's happening? What's your feeling? Embarrassment first. Is there something going on in your life that you're embarrassed about, that you're not admitting to yourself? Not really. Is there something that's going to happen that you think you might be embarrassed? Uh-oh, yeah. So then I started putting it together. I was going to give a speech in the old YMCA that was downtown Dallas, like for 200, 300 people, okay? At noon, downtown Dallas, right? So there I am, in front of everybody, right? And people were stopping, looking at me, which you're doing now, right? Looking at me, and I didn't want, to be embarrassed in front of a bunch of people. So I must have been, relaying my anxiety about doing that in the dream. Then I went, yeah, that's it. Well, what about the police officer, though? What's the deal there? So I don't know. Do I hate police officers or something? What's the deal? No. And I thought, yeah, I got it. The guy who hired me to do this speech said, if you need any equipment, call my administrative assistant and she'll get that for you. So I call her. Okay, this was before email. I called her and I said, well, what I need is a tape recorder. Do you remember those tape recorders? I also need a slide projector, before computers, slides, okay, to do this presentation. And she said, well, when is it? I'm glad to help you. I said, it's at noon on so-and-so date. It's part of your lunch series. She said, oh, I can't help you. And I said, well, why can't you help me? I'm off. 12 to 1, I'm off. I said, well, you can at least order it, have it show up. Nope. I'm not going to do it. If I can't be there while it's there, I'm not doing it. I said, well, your boss told me to tell you to do this. I don't care what he says. And she hung up on me. Okay? So the police officer, the authority that was trying to stop me, and I'm angry at her, who's the police officer. That's what I wanted to do, was kick her one. Okay? I did it. I got around her, and I got it all set up that way. But, all right? Does that make sense? So when you have a dream in your life, okay, pay attention to what's going on in your life, because that dream may mean something that's there. But you got to do some digging with it. You got to do some digging. Okay, so anybody got a dream? Good.
Like sometimes I'll be flying or swooping around, I guess like Spider-Man, for example.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or one time I remember I felt like an
Now there's a difference between, I'm going to interrupt you, between Spider-Man and Superman in your dreams. Which one was it?
I mean, different dreams.
A different dreams, different way. Okay, now explain the difference in a little while.
And then one time I felt like I had an out-of-body experience where I was at the person's house that I was sleeping with. Like, I felt like I went to their room and I was just sleeping with them and I could see them in the master bedroom.
In the master bedroom, yeah. Astral projection. Some people who are into ESP say that sometimes while you're sleeping, you can leave your body and float around and see other people and stuff. It's called astral projection. I don't know if that really happens, okay? But dreaming that you're flying. The difference between Superman and Spider-Man. Superman is all-powerful. I'm sorry if I'm into Superman and not Spider-Man. But he does this. Boom, boom, and soars over everybody. Now the question then would come, how were you feeling when you were flying?
I guess powerful.
Powerful. All right. Well, that's important to think about, because if I'm flying and I'm powerful, that might be a very positive dream to say, you know what, I'm really getting it together now. I'm flying around. Now, Spider-Man doesn't fly. He kind of hops. Okay? So he gets to someplace and gets to somebody else. Right? And he goes and he hooks up that way. He's not as powerful. So that's why there's a difference in that. But if you're flying, doing, and then you fly and you look down on this person, was it somebody you knew? Just a random person?
Which was the flying? No, I don't think it was.
Okay, so I'm powerful, I'm flying around, and then a different dream where you're looking down on somebody. Sometimes we need to know about other people and what's going on in their lives. Sometimes we're not powerful enough to find out what's going on, so we hope we can at least do that. Sometimes we are afraid of other people and we just don't know what's going on. So in our dreams, we're trying to watch them and be careful because we don't really trust some of those people that are there. So you need to go back in your life and think about, have you had issues like that and stuff? Because that's what you're trying to do, is maybe figure that out. Does that fit?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're trying to do is match what's going on in your life, okay, with what your dreams are. All right? Okay. Am I done? I got one more. Go ahead. You know, I don't want to know the dream, but you have another statement, okay? One more dream. Or is it a question?
Me?
Yeah, I thought you had a hand up.
I'm sorry. What about when you dream your teeth are falling out?
You dream when what?
When your teeth fall out?
Yeah, you know, and Freud said something about that, and I can't remember what that was. When your teeth are falling out. For most people, it's I'm experiencing a loss, okay, that I don't have any control over. Okay, because you're laying there and just, whoa, and things are coming out. So something has happened in your life. It was probably a bit of a shock to you, and there was a shock that happened, and I can't control it. What do I do? Then the next question would be, what were you feeling? It happens to your life. Well, I don't want to psychoanalyze you in front of everybody, but you might want to ask yourself, do you feel like that in your global life? Are there things that are going on in your life that you don't feel in control of? Are there a lot of changes that are happening in your life recently, and you're not really sure what's going on, so you have a dream like that? Does that fit? Okay, so, by the way, if you have a reoccurring dream, like your teeth are falling out a lot in dreams, psychologists really like those dreams because those are the ones you go, wow, something is going on, because you keep having this dream and your unconscious is telling you, pay attention to this, pay attention to this. So you need to sort that out, and hopefully you'll say, you know what, things are happening in my life, there are a lot of changes going on, this is normal. My psychology teacher said it was normal, okay, that these dreams are like that, but I'm going to work these things out. Things are going to work out for me eventually. I'm just in the process of doing that. If you say that enough to yourself over and over again, and if your dreams change, you're settling down with the changes. I go one and then two. Another dream. I don't want to get stuck in too many dreams. You have another dream or just a statement?
No, it's a question.
A question, okay.
Is daydreaming within the first stage of sleep?
Yeah, daydreaming is in the first stage of sleep because you start off in a daydream, and that's an active control that you have. You're thinking about something, all right? And you're developing it. And as you start getting into stage 2 sleep, then it gets more creative. But you always have some type of control over that because you're still pretty much awake. Okay? All right? So I spent a lot of time on that. I always have the most questions about dreams. That's why I put on there questions about dreams. All right? Because it's interesting, isn't it? Dreams are just fascinating. You do realize that what? When you dream, dreams are real sometimes. Aren't they feel real? Very, very real. All right. Now, there are problems with dreams, though. With sleep, not dreams. There are problems with sleep. It's called sleep disturbances. Insomnia, okay? The inability to get to sleep or to stay asleep. Get to sleep or stay asleep. People who have chronic insomnia usually is biological in nature. There's something in the brain that's going on that's keeping you awake. And chronic insomnia is you just don't sleep. You wake up, you go back to sleep, you wake up, you go back to sleep, you maybe get 1 or 2 hours a night, you're always awake. Most of us have what's called acute insomnia, H-C-U-T-E, acute, and that doesn't mean it's cute. What it means is that it's temporary, okay? It's temporary insomnia. And for most of us, it's based on psychological issues, mainly anxiety, mainly about things we're upset about. Because you're laying there and you're starting to fall asleep, and then you're saying, God, tomorrow, I hope things go better. And you're putting yourself in that sympathetic reaction, and you stay a lot in stage 1 and 2 sleep. Wake up, go to sleep, wake up, go to sleep, back and forth, back and forth. Okay? For most people, chronic insomnia, you usually need to be treated for it. It doesn't usually just go away on its own. There are what's called sleep centers that will actually have you come in and sleep, and they hook you up to all these EKGs, and they watch you sleep. And then they'll measure the brain functioning and develop some type of techniques to help you. A lot of people take sleeping pills, and like what you mentioned, what I mentioned, they have a lot of side effects. Plus, they are very addictive. Very, very addictive, that's there. So you want to try, if you can't get to sleep at night, the best thing to do for those of you who have temporary, if you're laying there and tossing and turning and tossing and turning, get up. Don't waste your time doing that. Go watch television, read a book, do something else to calm that active mind down, okay? Or later on in the semester, I'm going to show you how to do what's called a progressive mental relaxation. And when we do that, okay, that teaches you to focus on different parts of your body and shut down the sympathetic and induce the parasympathetic. So that might help you as well. Nightmares, we talked about this already. We all have nightmares. When we have more anxiety in our life, more issues, more problems, more depression, we have more nightmares. And our nightmares as adults are based on usually very realistic things. If those of you who are concerned about school, a classic dream, if you're concerned about school, is you're going to school and you can't find your classroom. Okay? The first week of school, and what happens? Everybody walks out, you're just about ready to walk in, and the professor says to you, "Not here, huh, F?" And you walk away. If you're concerned about school. As a concerned professor, one of the reoccurring nightmares I have before classes is the opposite happens. I can't find my classroom. You people walk out on me and go, F, and you walk by me. Okay, that's there. If you're concerned. Okay, that's a nightmare for some people, right? Night terrors are already explained. Sleep apnea, okay, is the inability to breathe while you're sleeping. And for most people, it's a physiological cause based on throat restrictions. Your breathing tubes are being restricted. So when someone has sleep apnea, I don't want to do this, wipe out my sinuses, but it sounds like they're snoring, but what happens, they can't catch their breath. So it's, and they wake up, go back, take a breath, go back to sleep. Okay? And it's a constriction, okay, of their throat and their air passages that are there. Most of the time, it's correlated with people who are overweight, okay, and to older age, particularly when people sleep on their back and begin to snore. Snoring is also a restriction in sinuses and breathing. But it does happen to younger people, that's there, and most of the time they have to be able to either wear a tube or an instrument or have a surgery to open up those passages. But it is kind of dangerous. And there are all kinds of other types of sleep disturbances that your book lists, but I'm only going to do these 3 that's here. All right, let's talk about something completely different, but it is under the category of an altered state of consciousness, because what is dreaming? Dreaming is an altered state of consciousness, isn't it? You think you're conscious, but you're not really. So it's an altered state of consciousness. It's very, very real to you. Well, hypnosis, okay, is an altered state of consciousness. Hypno comes from the Greek derivative of sleep. So what happens when someone is hypnotized? They're in an altered state of consciousness. They're what? Awake. Their eyes are awake. They just have drifted off somewhere else, and they may or not be aware of what's going on. For most of them, they are not aware of what's going on. Let me tell you the story about hypnosis. Hypnosis was first, we think, developed by, the first one who really brought it to fame was a fellow by the name of Mesmer. Has anyone ever said to you, you look awful mesmerized? Did you ever look at a fire and you're like, oh. You're looking at the fire and says, God, you're mesmerized. Well, that's where that comes from. Anton Mesmer, okay, lived in the late 1700s, and he was an absolute fraud. He was an absolute charlatan. What else can I say? And he promoted himself as a healer. And what he said was that he was able to get in touch with the ancient religions of the world. Okay, if you want to be a healer, you use religion. Okay, in the ancient religions of the world, where he was able to go back in time and discover the magical quality of magnets, and that he was able to get into animal magnetism. So what Mesmer did is that a couple of colleagues of his, he would send them out to these villages, and they would be there like a week or two beforehand, and they would be the beggars. And they would have some guy couldn't walk. He had one leg and he couldn't walk, and he'd sit there on crutches and beg. Somebody else had an arm that was paralyzed, and he couldn't use his arm, and he would beg. And then Mesmer would come into town, okay, after people went to church, and this was Eastern Europe first, okay, and on Sunday set up this huge tent, okay, like a carnival tent, okay, set it up, that was there, send his flyers out, advertising that he could cure people and help people through the powers of animal magnetism. And people would come. I mean, what else are you going to do on Sunday in the late 1700s, all right? They didn't have Facebook or football games. So you'd go out and you'd be at this place, and Mesmer had this huge, if you can imagine, a hot tub, just this huge vat of water that was there. And he'd give his speech about how he's able to get in touch with the ancient languages as well, and the ancient powers of deep within the earth. And he was able to do this through the power of animal magnetism, getting in touch with the ancient human forms of healing. And he'd give his whole speech, and he was what? Very mesmerizing when he gave that speech. He was a very incredible speaker, okay? And people were really listening, really listening. And then he would say, all right, I'm ready. Who's going to be my first volunteer? So who was the first volunteer? The guy who had a paralyzed arm, his colleague. Okay? And he'd come up, and Mesmer would pull out the magic power wand. And what it was a stick carved from the ancient forests. Okay? And on it had a magic twine pulled from the ancient civilization of whatever, okay? And on the bottom was a rock that he found in the deepest caves, okay? And he put the magic wand under this guy's arm that he couldn't move it, and he dipped it into the water. Then he started chanting in the ancient languages. And then he'd switch to whatever the language was. And now you're going to begin to feel the power coming up from the deepest, darkest parts of the earth. And pretty soon, you know it, that stick would start going like this, and shaking and being pulled down. And the fellow was going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And Mesmer would grab it and pull it down some more and pull it back and pull it down. And pretty soon his voice would go up going up more and more and more. And then he said, and now you feel the power. And the guy's arm went, oh, like this. Wow, I'm cured. And he walks up. People went, ooh. Who else wants to be cured? A guy comes up on the crutches, does the same thing. All of a sudden, he's dancing. Wow, I'm cured. Wow, people go, oh, this guy's incredible. He says, those people are poor, though, and I can't charge them money, but anybody, you want to pay whatever you need to pay to be cured. Who's next? And people would come up and get cured. Okay? And he got so popular that he wound up in Paris and started doing his show in Paris. And all these physicians in Paris had their clients who were paralyzed and had issues for years go and they were cured. So they went, my gosh, let's find out what this guy's doing. But this is incredible. So they appointed a scientific panel By the way, Benjamin Franklin was on this panel because at that time he was the ambassador to France and he was, science guy. So he'd show up and what they found out was he was a fraud. Okay, he had a magnet at the end of this. It was just an old piece of wood that was there. But he said, but the doctors went, no, you don't understand. These people, I've been treating this person. Well, what we wound up saying, well, maybe there's what? Psychosomatic illnesses, and what he was doing under the power of hypnosis, give to these people suggestions that they were no longer ill, no longer paralyzed, because their real illness was not physical in nature, it was more psychological than anything else. So the birth of hypnosis. When people are under hypnosis, they are much more susceptible to what's going on. Right? When you enter into an altered state of consciousness, you're much more susceptible. Drugs, okay? You're much more susceptible. Hypnosis, drugs, somebody who gives an incredible speech, a very charismatic individual. You reach into your pocket, you give money, all of a sudden. Why did I do that? Well, because they were so incredible. Probably put you in an altered state of consciousness. By the way, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. A hypnotist will never hypnotize you. You let yourself be hypnotized. Has anyone been hypnotized? One person, two people. Okay. It's kind of fun because you let it happen. You absolutely let it happen. There are some people who are better subjects than others. Okay? People who are bad subjects, who have a hard time doing this, because I think it's a skill that you can learn to do to relax, are people who are very controlling and very logical and rational. Through the whole hypnotic suggestion experience, they're going, what's going on? What's happening? Is he really doing this to me? But people who can just kind of let go and let things happen and flow with things, they're better subjects. And they let these things happen to themselves. They what? Accept the suggestion that they are hypnotized. You get that? Then they accept the suggestion that, do you ever go to a comedy club? Now, you people are too young to go to clubs, right? You don't have fake IDs or anything, right? No. Okay? Well, if you ever go to a comedy club, there's always like a hypnotist. He comes to town and he hypnotizes people in the audience. And you have all these people up there, and they're kind of giggling and laughing, and they're looking around. And he says, when I snap my fingers, all of you will be absolutely naked. And he goes like this, and they go, and they're doing this, except for the person who's real proud of their body, and they go, like that. But they really believe that. What is he doing? He's changing their perception of what's going on through these suggestions. Changing their perception. Does it work? Yeah, it works pretty well. Can we use hypnosis and therapy to help people? Yeah, but it's not that great. Okay? You can help people stop smoking and weight control, but that's more of a behavioral problems than anything else. But hypnosis does help people to relax. Okay? I think it's a real skill to learn. I think if you can put yourself in an altered state of consciousness, meditation, hypnosis, not drugs, meditation, hypnosis, where you can control it before you study, one with your studying, be here now, study, get that information in. Boy, it gets in there pretty darn well. Some of you do that without realizing it. You still with me? Some of you do that. Some of you will pick up your textbook, read it, and all of a sudden an hour goes by and you're really into the study. Anybody? Somebody? One or two people? That's an altered state. You were right there with it. You can learn to do this by what? Learning to focus. Remember that? You still with me? Learning to focus. Getting into that. Inducing this altered state. And then if you sit down and take your test, if you can just sit there, remember my tests are untimed, and just relax, get back into this state, boy, that information is going to come to you. So many of you, when you get in your car and you drive off, there come the answers. Why? Because you're more relaxed then. And the answers come. Good skill to learn. Good skill to learn. How much time do I have? Oh, 3 minutes. All right. I'll stop. Let's